Hi, my name is Mark Jeter,
I'm Karen Jeter.
and we are the Jeters, happily blended together for 15 years. I've got 2 biological children, and Karen had 3. So we blended together in 2009. We got married. We've known each other since 2008, and look at that.
Well, I was living in Southwest Georgia. He was living in Tallahassee. Kind of met in an unconventional way through Yahoo Personals of all things. We just started chatting online, and a couple weeks in, he's like, "Well, what do we do now?" I was like, "I guess we meet in person." So we met in Chipley for Hardee's Biscuit, just to see if we'd hit it off, and we hit it off quite well. And about a year and 3 months later, got married, and I moved to Tallahassee, and we began our Brady Bunch years, and with our 5 blended kids. We had the 2 of them were older, so we had the 3 younger ones here in the house. So we had Kaylee, Courtney, and Cole here in the house. So 2 10-year-olds and a 12-year-old. So living the middle school life, elementary life. So
were all of your kids, the other 2 were...
one was in college, and then my oldest son, he was over in Freeport, Florida, to finish up his high school years.
You have to say all 5 of their names, though. I love this part.
Casey, Cody, Courtney, Kaylee, Cole.
Okay. People think y'all planned that. Y'all
Yeah,
didn't.
nothing. Yeah. Where do we go from there?
Our previous marriages were, both of them, mine and hers, our other spouses, were 17 years, and those did not end up, very well working out. So we both went our separate ways, and we probably divorced 4 or 5 years, I guess, before we met. But in blending us together, it took us out of our old selves, that we the things that we lived with or went through in the old marriages, and I don't think we've ever fought.
I know. I was thinking about that earlier today.
We don't fight. We don't argue.
It's just such a
Sure,
peace.
we get upset at each other once in a while, but it's why? We've already been through that, and it doesn't help anything.
Yeah, we had a private, just us 2, and a local preacher friend that actually Mark used to teach, Dean and Sarah and his wife. They met us down in Alligator Point. It was just the 4 of us, and we just exchanged our vows, and then we had a big party in the backyard the next day. Invited all our family and friends, and
This backyard?
Yep.
Which is beautiful.
Yes,
I wish I could take the camera and maybe just poke out the window.
Love it. It's just magical. So, but we would love to we took all 5 kids on a road trip in 2014, down to Key West. Loaded up the minivan, drove all the way down to Key West, spent a week down there, had a ball, snorkeling, catamaran, the whole works. And that was a long day coming back, because we drove all the way back up from that trip. And then that night, we exhausted. It was rainy, and so that's the night Mark ended up having a grand mal seizure during his sleep. So woke up to the feeling of that going on, and terrifying, because I didn't know what was happening. I'd never seen that before. And I was on the phone with 911 2:00 in the morning, and they're coaching me what to do, and I look, and it's like when he stopped seizing, his eyes were fixed, his lips were blue, he was pale. I was like, oh my gosh, terrifying. Paramedics arrive, he started coming to, and what that led to was finding out that a car wreck that he had had almost 30 years earlier had left enough orbital or head trauma damage that
Scar
caused
tissue.
that caused a seizure. And you saw Dr. Ayala.
Dr. Ayala, he's the neurosurgeon here in town, or I think he just retired, but, and he just looked at me one day, examining me, and said, "Somebody up there likes you."
Didn't he tell you, what was it? He said he should have had more of them, or?
He just asked after my wreck, which I was mentally unconscious for a week. I don't remember that whole week, but I had some swelling going on my left side of my brain. It was trying to cross the divider to the right side, and it was a touch and go night, the first night. But Dr. Ayala said, did the doctors ever tell you that you would one day have a seizure or start having seizures? And I said, no, they did not say a word about it. And that's when he said, well, you've had it, and we've got you on the right medicine now. Somebody up there likes you.
Yeah, he pointed up, said, somebody up there likes you.
And you haven't had any since?
No.
That's crazy. So being exposed to that, a year later, a little over a year later, the youngest girls, Kaylee and Courtney, were 17, upstairs hanging out. It was a school break, so Kaylee was hanging out with us. And
It was
Christmas break, yeah. And then Courtney comes flying downstairs. Something's wrong with Kaylee. Something's wrong with Kaylee. So I run up there, and she was having a seizure. So I knew, having seen what was happening to him the year earlier, I knew what that was. It was the same exact. Called 911. They come get her. Mark jumps in the ambulance, and then go to TMH from there.
And on the ambulance ride there, she seized 2 more times, and I got to see what you saw in me, and it tore me apart.
Mm-hmm.
But they did, full exam, MRIs and CATs, and it happened to be Dr. Ayala again,
Wow.
who said she's got a brain tumor in her temporal lobe, just above her ear, and we're going to, send off for testing. And they kept an eye on it, and at that time she was living with her mom.
Which turned into a blessing, a God thing too, because
Yeah.
her mom was living only,
hour away from Children's Hospital in Birmingham.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she got the best care she could have hoped for right there.
Okay.
Yeah, they did the surgery like in March, because we went on vacation like in March, and then as soon as she got back of 2016, they did the removal of the tumor, which they said it just popped, like they cut her, and then it just popped up, like, take me. It wasn't near as invasive looking at the time, but they did send it off to Boston, I believe, and in May, that's when they got the confirmation that it was glioblastoma, brain cancer.
Stage 4, and the doctors had called her mom and discussed it with her, and her mom got off the phone and just was losing it, bawling, crying, and told Kaylee, sat her down and told her, they said, you have stage 4 glioblastoma, brain cancer. And Kaylee just looked at her mom and said, don't worry, God's got me. And we got these bands on, and it says God's got me. That's Kaylee's words for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So she went through, after the surgery, you still have to go through the chemo and radiation. And she battled it for, 5 years?
Yeah, because typically they tell you don't Google the diagnosis, but of course we're going to do it.
Right.
And it's usually a year tops that you're going to live with this level of stage 4 glioblastoma. She was pretty much almost in remission. They don't call it full remission till you hit 5 years, and she was about a quarter of the year away from that 5-year mark when it came back with a vengeance. So
Yeah, that was 2022.
Mm-hmm.
Early in the year. And she had a second surgery because it started growing again. And, the doctor explained it well for brain cancer, that you think of a tumor, that it's just this round blob, but when it has to do with the brain, if any of that attaches to the brain's cells and brain matter, it can just go all through there. And he said it's like you take your favorite cereal and cereal you don't like the most, and you put them in a big bowl, mix it up. It's like, getting that cancer out there is like trying to pick out the worst cereal so you don't have to eat it. But
She never complained.
no,
And, gosh, she lost her vision in that last month, and Mark took her to the Birmingham Zoo, and she was in a wheelchair then, and he was pointing out elephants or something, and hey, baby, look at the elephants, and she's like, oh yeah.
she was looking the wrong way.
She was acting
just
wrong.
pretending, so I'm so sorry you can't see. And anytime I'm sorry you've going through this. You're too young for it, and I wish it was me and not you. And her reply every time would be, "It's okay. It's okay, Daddy." And that was one thing that always stuck out with her faith. That always stuck out with me was not letting anybody suffer through it with her. She knew everybody was sad, but she didn't want to see everybody sad.
She sounded that I call it oddly at peace.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was God too. Working behind the scenes through her, comforting her.
She's touched a lot of people. There's a Facebook page set up, the BK Strong, and there's lots of people that follow it that never even knew her, but are just inspired by her strength and her message. And so it was about May of 22 that basically hospice was set up in the home to just help her keep her comfortable. And so we were up there to be with her, and I got a call to rush back to Fort Walton Beach because my father had fallen and was in ICU, and he declined very quickly and ended up passing away on May 17th. And then Kaylee passed away the next morning, May 18th. So he was with Kaylee, I was with my dad. We were in 2 different states and couldn't be there for each other. So that was a hard time. So.
But still, God was the center of it all. We were apart, but we had a connection through God.
Yeah, a peace.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was absolutely. I mean, we were in funeral homes in 2 different states at the same time. Making arrangements and we were at Crossway for a number of years up until then. But it was such a broken time, and it just so much pain, and it just we just kind of wanted to be anonymous for a little while. We were still reaching out, going to church services and watching Crossway online too, and we struggled that summer. That was a hard summer. We had a really good close network of friends that were holding us up. That fall we went to a grief share class, and it just really deepened our strength in God, and that He's got us. He's totally got us. Definitely got Kaylee. So there's just an enormous peace when you have someone you lose that you know where they're at, spiritually. So something that go ahead.
Well, my faith at the time, I was just praying all the time. You guys at the church were praying all the time. And every time I would drive up to one of her appointments from here, I'd stay the night with my family. They live up that way. But I always listened to the Alabama gospel music and Alabama country
Country
band,
gospel.
gospel music. Alan Jackson, you know, I knew him by heart, and just praying all the way up there, and I got, even knowing nobody had ever survived glioblastoma, I just felt God's gonna change this. You know, this is gonna be it. She's gonna be the first, and I really believed that. You know, and I was on faith in my mustard seed, and you know, and the whole shebang, and so from that perspective, you know, I didn't lose faith. I was disappointed, and I've got a very strong Christian cousin from you know, he's a great, can talk about anything. He told me one time, he said, if you're mad at God, it's okay. He understands. Because I didn't want to admit I was mad at God. But at the time I was. I know he didn't do it. I mean, he took her, but then I started thinking, okay, he took her to save her from something horrible. You know, it was her time. We all have a time stamp. And so we've grown a lot from that.
I think attending that grief share class, because you were pretty quiet those months and
Yeah.
pretty shut down verbally. So the grief share, we it's like a 12-week course. We went, God, we were about a month or so in, and then that's when you started opening up, and it just really helped because everybody grieves differently, and everybody processes differently, and it's okay to do your own way. There's no right or wrong, you know. There's no timeline, and so that helped teach me that with even my family members and Kaylee's family members, that we all process it differently.
Yeah.
So, and it's to respect that path. But something that kind of we've been active in since 2015 is triathlon, swim, bike, run. So that turned into a really helpful outlet after Kaylee passed.
Yeah, we've done a lot of sprint triathlons, the small ones, which 400 or 500 yard swim, 10 or 15 mile bike, and a 5K run.
Right.
We've done a lot of those. Then we got into, hey, let's see what a half Ironman is like. You know, which we did a lot of training for it, and of course that's a 1.2 mile swim and 56 mile ride and on the bike, and then a half marathon 13.1 mile run. And then we had some friends in 23 who wanted to do the Florida Ironman. And we went over there and watched them, cheered them on.
In Panama City.
Yeah, in Panama City. And I said, I gotta do that. And you know, it helped me further along process Kaylee, you know, because every long ride I took her out.
Yeah.
The stone, when she was first diagnosed, one of her doctor team members came in and gave these, she said, had pulled out a thing of stones. She said, just pick a stone. And I picked this one that says grace on it. And I think Kaylee picked one that said strength, and my mom picked one, and whoever else was in the room got to pick a stone. But I've had this ever since that.
It takes it on every training ride, every run.
Every
gosh.
competition, I've got a pocket somewhere that's got that in it.
That's crazy.
And,
That's so cool.
so I decided to do a full Ironman, and
Which they give the time allowance for a full Ironman 17 hours. It's a long. It's a long.
well, explain the other one. It's 2.4 mile swim,
In the Gulf.
112 mile bike, and a full marathon, 26.2 miles. Anyway, so I'm training up for it. You know, I take her everywhere I go. I got a sticker on my bike that says Kaylee on it. But my worst event is swimming. When we first started, for even the little triathlons, we went to the pool at the gym, I swam 25 yards, which is one length, and I was out of breath. I could not swim. I got a body that sinks. It doesn't float.
He does float.
It goes straight to the bottom.
I
You
know,
don't
we're
have
at,
a
we're
fish
at,
body.
yeah, we're at Premiere, and I'm like, okay, just lay on your back and float. And he's like, I'm like, what are you doing? Just float.
It's because he has a rock in
I
his
know.
pocket.
Yeah. So.
So I, through training, I've got a coach, and she does a great job training with me and swimming more and more and learning different things. And I got to, in the pool, I hit the 3,000 yard mark, and she texted me and she said, "Okay, you just swam over 2.4 miles." So he said, "Yeah, I was in a pool where I can grab on the edge when I need to."
Uh-huh.
No sharks.
Yeah, and I've got a fear. When I was a kid, probably about 10 or 12 years old, me and a buddy that were out in the lake at his house, and we go out there in the boat and turn it over and play king of the boat and
Yeah.
knock each other off or whatever. But at one time, I fell in the water, and I don't know why I was not able to push myself back up, and I was just sinking. And next thing, I feel this hand on my shoulder and grab my arm and pull me up. I thought I was drowning, So I battle that fear out in the water sometimes.
Uh-huh.
I
Very
get
real
work through it.
fear.
I ask God to take it away, and He takes it away. But this last May, we did a little sprint triathlon over in Defuniak Springs, and that lake in the middle of town. It's what was it, 400 or 500 yard swim? It wasn't much at all, and we got to wear wetsuits if we wanted to. I didn't have the wetsuits help your buoyancy, but I had some shorts that are of that buoyancy type, and so I get out there, and before the first turn, I'm struggling. I can't catch my breath right. I can't sink everything in right, and I turn over my back, and I'm just swimming on my back a little bit, and I just can't. I almost had a panic attack out there. It felt like.
So this is like 6 months before the big race that he's already training for, paid for. We booked it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a go. So he's having this.
I'm having this thing. How am I going to swim 2.4 miles if I'm having this trouble?
Right, yeah.
And I said, well, I'll train for it, but still, it was just bothering me so much. And I started, the Monday after that race, I started looking in the Bible for verses just to, kind of calm me down and give me a good foundation that I can turn back to and say, yes, God's with me. And I found 2 Timothy 1:7. And God did not give us a spirit of fear. He gave us a spirit of strength, love, and self-control. And that's what I need. Strength to be able to swim. Love is God's love, and self-control that I can control my breathing and not get upset. So training up and doing the long rides and taking it easy on the knees on the run. Because they told me if you push it on the bike, you can walk the whole 26 miles and still make it in time.
Right.
But anyway, so we were in Panama City in the hotel room the night before. It's time to go to bed because I got to get up at least 3:30 or 4 the next morning to be down to get everything ready in transition before the race starts. And that night things going through your head, processing how you're going to do this, and when you get to this point, what's next. But I also started getting those fears again about, being out in the water. And I looked at it, I had to look it up, and it was 40, 50 feet deep out to the tip of where we were going to swim. And I just said, God, take this away, please, and prayed to him. And he did, and I went to sleep, and I woke up the next morning, and just to calm us, just to do something, I started flipping through Facebook. And the things that Chris puts out, the little stories with the verses on it. And I read through the story, yeah, that's cool. at the bottom, none other than that verse
First Timothy.
that I looked up those months ago. And from that second on, I had no worries. I looked at Karen and I said, "You're more scared than I am." My brothers were there. I said, "You're more scared than I am."
Not scared
I
at all.
mean, before any swim normally, before you get in the water, I'm just, I'm shaking from the inside out. I stood there on that beach and just like, let's go, let's get this thing going.
That's
And it was just the calmest, most easy feeling. That was all him. I mean, it was all day. I had no worries on the bike. 112 miles on the bike. I was comfortable. At about mile 30, I found a spot where I could, not tiny little bike seat, but I was comfortable and felt at ease the whole way. I was even so comfortable that 12 miles left to go, I saw a guy pushing his bike on the course, and I said, "What's happening?" He said, "Oh, it's my third flat tire of the day, so I'm just quitting." I said, "Man, you only got 12 miles to go." I said, "And you don't do this. I gave him all my bike equipment, my spare tire, my CO2 blow up that blows it up, and I said, take it. Get it worked out. Come on." I had to go, but I left it off.
Had to go.
But I knew that God was with me the whole time. That I could even just give my whole repair kit away. And the run, I had all my cheering squad there. My family had come down from Birmingham, that area. My mom, she was she worked through her. She has a bad issues with her back, and so she said, we invited her to it months before, and she said, "Okay, I'm going to do my PT. I'm going to do my PT training on my back, so we can, all go
Make the
down
trip.
and make the trip, because riding in long car rides hurts." But she made it. She was on the side. She
rang a cowbell for 10 hours. She was cheering everybody. She was cheering everybody. So it was just a perfect day.
Yeah, I finished in 15 hours and 19 minutes.
Wow.
But I did walk a lot. I was tired.
You know that categorizes you as one of those crazy people?
Yeah, but if you do it once, you can always say you're an Ironman.
Yeah, exactly. This is true.
Had a lot of help doing it though.
Yeah.
That's okay. I give all the glory to them.
What was that phrase we talked about earlier? The oddly peaceful, though?
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? So, y'all know what our family has been through, and we talked about that some at the marriage retreat, and that was the thing that eventually people started asking, what can we pray for? And I would say continued peace. Because at some point you realize, okay, things are going to happen according to God's will. And when you finally not get the answer that you want, but you realize that it is good, and it is God's will, and it is good, all you want is that peace.
Yeah.
Of this is going to play out one way or the other, but if I can be at peace with it, and once you know that peace too, it sounds like Kaylee knew that peace, and so she really was like, okay, what's gonna happen is gonna happen, because I know beyond just the outcome, and when you're standing on that beach or shore or wherever you were, okay, well, I know peace, so bring it on, you know.
Yeah.
What a crazy thing to maybe be able to understand how your daughter felt in a time when maybe we didn't understand how she felt, Who knew that it'd be through a crazy thing like an Ironman, maybe.
Yeah. That stone with me the whole way.
Yeah.
You're doing the next one, right?
Oh no. I'm only half crazy. I've done 2 of them. I'm good. 2 halves are plenty. But we actually did a relay one in Augusta, I think in 23. And I was in line with somebody. I swam, he biked, and I ran. And I met a girl in line, and we were sharing stories, and she had scripture on her wrist, and I told her about Kaylee's story, and she's like, first thing she said, "Did y'all get a divorce?" Because so many people that lose children, it's hard, but I think it's brought us even closer together, and just seeing God's hand all over everything. It's just,
Yeah.
I mean, and I hope, because we have quite a few friends in our training community, and some know God and some don't. So we may be the only book that they read, to see, okay, well, why are they at such peace over losing a daughter? And, that's God.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not us by any means, so.
Would y'all say y'all have found that as much as you can, that peace after all of it?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Was that a post everything, or could you feel the peace that she felt?
Things had to settle down.
Yeah.
And because when you see
Needed time.
yeah, you needed time because it's so fresh in your mind when you see somebody suffer physically, and you see the changes in their body that doesn't even look like them anymore. It's hard to get that out of your vision. But once time passes, and then all you see is the lively Kaylee, the healthy Kaylee. So.
I have to point out this, it might not turn out the way I want it, but there's my finger. This is Kaylee. And then y'all wanted to say something about this painting.
Well, what's the painter's name?
Vanessa Horabuena.
It was a gift from Kaylee in 2021 for Christmas, and it's just the vision of Jesus's robe walking along with the little lamb following. It's just precious. So
I might have to take a picture and put it with everything,
yeah,
so that I don't do an awkward zoom in.
yeah. This is actually this whole mantle reflects. And I thought that was sweet. That's something that Mark's mom gave for Father's Day. Little figurine with him and Kaylee.
Well, as a parent, even as just a family member, well, especially as a parent, if they die that young, you wonder if they really got God and really are in heaven, or on the good side, heading that way. And so it bothered me once in a while, and I know she was good. She didn't, she stayed out of things, But one night I had a dream, and when I was young, we had a friend of the family. We always called him Uncle Flick, and he was the most spiritually right but down to earth man that I've ever met, and he brought so many people to God. And I had a dream that I was at the front of his old house, the old house that his family used to live in. I'm knocking on the door, and the door opens, and it was my dad. My dad passed away in 2020.
COVID.
Yeah. And he said, "Hey, Mark." And I said, "Dad, hey." And I looked in the back, and Uncle Flick was back there in his recliner, as he usually was. And he raised it, "Hey, Mark." And then Kaylee walks by. Say, "Hey, Dad." And then I woke up.
They're all just hanging out.
You're gonna make me ugly cry. Yeah, it's just such a peace.
That's God again, or is Charmaine. He's God, as she said the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of, those prodding questions that I told you I was going to tell you, but I'm also trying not to talk too much because I'll end up ugly crying back here. It's from my perspective, we've heard recently of an announcement of the family friend that I told you about was who we were talking about Sunday. It was diagnosed, and you hear about people being diagnosed with cancer and all these terrible things happening. And y'all mentioned something earlier about people coming up and saying, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and like Kaylee didn't want to hear that, kind of thing. And we have sometimes, the goal of these videos is to help people who may not have had those moments where God has had to be there and you have to go, God's got us, you know, to give them some encouragement for when those times come. But one of the things that I would love to ask y'all that I just kind of feel like is maybe off topic, but also just really beneficial, if y'all have an answer.
Yeah.
When you were going through everything with Kaylee, and you can answer from y'all's perspective and from hers, people are always at a wonder of what to say to people. So that's one question, is like, you know, what can people genuinely, what was helpful during that time? And then also, if this happens to somebody else, if somebody's listening and 5 years from now, their daughter is diagnosed, or their wife or husband or whatever it is, and somebody says, how do you do this? This is probably the better question. How do you do this faith thing that you're talking about, where you're like, God has us? Because those are really nice words to say, but they're so hard to do. So how do you do that?
Well, remember after Kaylee died, one of the first of many meals we got, Chris Dowers brought over. And, you know, I talked with him. You know, everything was really fresh. And over the next few months, you know, he gave me his number. He said, just give me a call. And so I got together with him a few times, a number of occasions, just to talk. And so, but he wasn't giving advice. He was just listening. But if you're going through something like this, you're gonna battle. It's a battle. The hate of it that it happened, you know, the sorrow of it. You're battling your emotions. You're battling, like we were. We didn't want to be, you know, bombarded, or not bombarded, but, you know, touched by everybody. Everybody feeling bad for us, and that's kind of, we just kind of removed ourselves. And but it's, and to me, it was, I had to open up my heart about it.
Right.
I had to, you know, like we went through the grief share.
And it took time to get there, because there was actually a whole bag of cards that came in that it took months to even look at them, because it was just too hard. But you, I don't know, you want it, you appreciate the reach outs.
Yeah.
You really do. You appreciate those for sure. And just something, just like he said, just listen, just be there.
Yeah. How would you say you knew, like, I'm assuming you knew God was with you. How do you explain that to somebody? Because we say that God was with me. Like, how did you know?
Well, we've been doing the Wednesday night studies, and last Wednesday that was one of the things. What is God to you? I think was one of the group questions, and mine was hope and peace, and that's just an overwhelming peace. And that's how you. I mean, that can come from nowhere else.
Yeah, I grew up in the old church, which was hell and damnation. You know, thou shalt not, thou shalt not. Thou.
Right.
And it was tough to overcome that, and so I've just been learning my whole adult life. And it's hard to understand how powerful God is and almighty, but he loves us more than we love ourselves. That's hard to understand. But if you drill it in yourself and get it, I think people who are really strong Christians, like my cousin I was talking about, he refers to, you know, 1 John scriptures all the time. Love, 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 love.
Yeah.
And it's, so I guess it's reading and understanding and opening your heart to that. It's a possibility, and it's actually what God does. God is love.
So yeah, when you see somebody or hear of somebody that's got a family member that's life-threatening, just let them know you're thinking about them. Just say praying for you, just thinking about you. Just being there.
Yeah. I know, having that foundation of faith. I always encourage, you know, myself and others, you know, like, if you can build that faith. I had a tough time in college, and I remember being very anxious at one point and just going, I know God is good and I know I want God. And those were the two things that I just circulated in my head over and over again. But to have that foundation of faith to know when you enter these times, because as we know, they're going to come.
Oh yeah, it's just your season. I mean, your season's coming.
Yeah.
We're all in different seasons at different times. So.
Right, and to have that faith to help others too. But man, how we've said it a couple times. That peace word keeps coming back up. Of there's just this peace that you can't explain.
Passive understanding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Also, if you need to talk to somebody, Mark said he's a good listener.
This is the most he's talked in a long time.
But there's more to their story than just this.
Absolutely.
And they shared some with me, so I always encourage people. I'm like, listen to this video, but also then go and talk to them. And Mark may not say a lot, but he will.
I don't like it.
Yeah, exactly. If he doesn't talk, it doesn't mean he doesn't like you.
Exactly.
But is there anything else that, like, okay, if you had one chance to tell, if you think Kaylee would say anything to encourage people?
One of the things that I always try to teach the three little ones here was the best thing you can do in life the best connection you can ever make in life is with God. Because I always think about the Michelangelo painting where God's reaching out as far as he can and man's just going, no, reach and grab it and make the connection. And she did. I think that's what she would say, make that connection.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all so much for being willing to share all that and how hard it is, and yet y'all have done a very good job of processing. It's never easy, so thank y'all so much. And
Thank you.
we appreciate y'all.
Yeah.